Welcome back to In Doubt Checkout with Dr. Nandini Mundkur. Here we are back with our next podcast where we are going to learn more about the strategies that we need to look into to develop emotional regulation. Doctor, in our last podcast, we were discussing so much about the different types of parentings. That is, either it can be the dismissal or the disapproval. Doctor, when I when I have to introspect myself or the kind of parenting that I have had been, I think it was all authoritarian itself. But I feel that I am well emotionally regulated. So how does what's the difference now?
Okay, they are not dismissal and disapproval. I said the common type of parenting. Even I was brought up probably with an very authoritarian. We all said what was said in the house was the law and those days. But I think the difference is, it's the psychosocial cultural evolution which has happened. See, in our time, we were just probably confined maximum to a city. I think I didn't know beyond my road. I mean, we didn't know what was happening beyond the few boundaries of a wall or a street, or maybe for you a little bit with this thing. So we the authoritarian worked because it we didn't need it, and perhaps when as we grew up, we resolved many issues as we came along. See, because it was a small world, and also remember, we all came from a joint family.
Yes.
See, when a child is, when a parent is tough on a child or, being authoritative, they would have been somebody else, an uncle or an aunt or a grandparent who would have connected with the child. And, so joint family system had a great advantage. And the whole village, it was like it takes a village to bring up a child. That's what they say. And the village was there for the child at that time. Now with the coming in of social media and the so-called evolution of your smartphones, you're connected to the world all the time.
Yeah.
All the time you're on stress. Ting, ting, WhatsApp, ting, ting, notification. You're so much, and your children are also into it. The world has changed.
Yes.
So your strategies of what worked then, you're not working now because every child is looking at so many other things. They're learning from many other resources beyond their limitation of school, and so you see, you have to change with the time. Okay. That is why perhaps your authoritarian. See, all this authoritarian works for some time. It's all temporary. It's not that it doesn't work. The child at that time obeys, and you think you have done your great job, but it goes back. You have not solved the child's emotional issues.
True.
That is what they're talking about now, and that's what it leads to. What is called as stress-related disorders. You're bottling up inside. The child is bottling up his feelings. It's not released his feelings. No.
True, very true.
It's listening to you. It's obeying you. But is it resolving its own conflicts? Are we resolving our own conflicts? I'm sure if you look back on it, you may have many traces. If you close your eyes and think about your child, oh, this was my trauma. This was my trauma. And I'm still suffering from this.
Yes. That's very true.
Let's talk about like the people pleasers. They talk, are extremely child who's got no confidence. He wants constantly pleasing people at his own expense of his or her emotion.
Very true.
I see so many people pleasers.
Yes.
They do anything to please others.
Yes.
Is it a good sign? We think, oh my God, so kind and nice, but she's doing so much harm. Today, the world is also for your own body and for your own self. It's called self-compassion.
Yes.
You have to look after yourself. Wear your own mask before you put it on others. They keep saying that, in the aircraft. But this is so true for your life too, my dear.
Yes, that's true. Very true, doctor. So we've been discussing so much about how to help a child, how to help them go through a phase. There are many strategies that you have explained in the previous podcast. Are there any evidence-based practices or?
These are all evidence-based practices. They're all researched methodologies which I'm talking. It's not just out of the mind. Calming techniques and mindfulness. Today everything is about being in the present. For you, this mindfulness, you teach this even to the child in a different way. You adults, even the child strategies are through games and activities. We don't have time to go through all that, but these are the ideas which I want to give it to people, that how do you have, this is very much an evidence-based practice.
So whatever we have been learning here should work if it's done the right way.
Of course.
Yes, doctor, I understand that there are many learnings that a child has through its developmental years. But somewhere down the line, some sort of experiences create some sort of uh, difficult phases in a child. It may be very toxic. We hear a lot about this toxic stress that a person can go through. Could you help us understand more about that?
Yeah. Toxic stress or trauma, they call it. The post-traumatic stress disorders, PTSD, you'll hear. The whole world, is talking about it. Yesterday or day before yesterday, you remember that guy who in the Christmas night or something rammed in New Orleans, and they are talking about him having a PTSD when he was a war veteran in Vietnam or some place or Vietnam or Afghanistan. I forget. One of the thing I heard that probably he's carrying some vengeance, which he took it out. So post-traumatic stress disorders is very, very, it's well established entity. And the toxic stress. We also talk right from, the pregnant woman. In our country itself, this worries me a lot. One of the biggest stress or toxic stress is poverty. Yeah. Poverty and lack of nutrition itself, the fetus suffers. Yes. And then if she is abused, the sexual abuse or the husband's abuse or chronically deprived of any happiness or the mother-in-law, ill-treating. So many things we keep hearing, or one working without food, alcoholism, substance. All these affect the baby when it's in the womb itself. There is something called the HPA axis in the doctors, called hypothalamic pituitary axis. The hypothalamus is the oldest organ which senses stress. It's a detector of stress. So it has to keep vigilant. That's this axis itself gets affected in the baby itself before it's born. And this baby can have a lot of trauma when it's born. Many kids, who have, and especially, and also things like premature babies and other disorders and, many things. And they've studied that. What they've studied is this hormone called cortisol, which rises during stress. And they've estimated this, and they've found it's 4 times higher in the children, babies born to mothers who have, these are all scientific studies which I read a lot. And so that can happen any age, post-traumatic stress disorders. And all these children, what a trauma does to a child is it affects the brain configuration itself in all these HP axis, hormonal release, the vagus, the vagal tone, as we call it, to keep. So all these are scientific terms I don't want to throw at you all, but that's why it's an evidence-based studies, that's why I told you that these are not just out of the hat, but studied very well. And so the post-traumatic disorders, the child exhibits in number of ways.
Okay.
Temper, not tantrums, unresolved, poor academic performances. It affects your physical health, autoimmune diseases, obesity.
Okay.
Obesity and your type 2 diabetes. All these are also all because of emotional, traumas are not regulated there. So many of them, it affects all aspects of your life.
Okay.
So that's why it's so important to identify. And also these days, the trauma is coming from our climate change. What happens, for example, you saw that Wayanad, we had that big landslide. So many children got displaced. So many family has to this is a big trauma for them. Yes. New place, no food, parents are constantly seeking and they're neglected,
Yes.
War zones. What happens to those children when you see the war zones? They are adding to your trauma. When landslide, earthquakes, floods, these are all calamities when you are displaced, and it pushes you to the poverty line. So they're all adding trauma. You're getting a lot of these children coming out with it's called the trauma stress. And added to this is also the parents these days, working parents.
Yes, doctor.
They leave their children, few months old in a nursery, or they see, all these war zones are all going to get abandoned children,
Yes.
orphanages.
Yes.
See how much the trauma which is happening. What are we doing about it? At least those children who can be protected, we should do at least that, is what I feel. These are all trauma. What the trauma changes the full brain itself. All the time you're in that sympathetic overload, vigilant. Have you see the attention deficit disorder, ADHD they're talking.
Yes.
Many of them are post-traumatic. You see a child, they'll have their eyes wide open, and the muscles, they constantly, it's all these are trauma. And if in the school we are not compassionate to them, and we're then ridiculing them, or the parents are saying perform, academics, without even understanding, what is this child undergoing? That's why your depression. And our country's statistics are not very great to talk about in emotional health. Highest number of teenage suicide is in India.
Yeah.
We figured third lowest happiest nation in the world.
True.
All these indicators of all emotional health in a nation. We need to, I think, as a society, as a community, get better aware of how do we manage, help our children understand and manage traumas. So this is called post-traumatic stress disorders. It exhibits in mental health, physical health, emotional health, and the very fact the child very least motivated. We see so many these days. I feel in my practice itself, these kids, from it used to be a lot of neurodivergence. Now it's moving towards only this from regular schools.
Yes.
Unfortunately, many schools are now referring children, and they are concerned, which makes me happy. Yes. But I only hope they also do better training of their teachers and put a proper protocol and understand it. It'll be. I think we are starting at least. At least a good thing.
Many of the schools, with our experience also, have been able to identify when when children are not able to adapt, when children are going through a lot of stress, when children are not being able to perform, even when they come from affluent families.
Yes.
So I think kudos to all the teachers who are really recognizing these kinds of issues in the children at the early age, and then they are sending them to seek for help.
Yeah.
When I'm not able to help, I think it's better that I refer them to whoever can help, and to resolve their issues as early as possible, so that they can lead a better independent life, an emotionally independent, regulated life as they grow.
Sure.
We've heard so much about so much work that we need to do with respect to a neurotypical child. Doctor, help us understand, are these emotions being developed even in a neurodivergent child?
Of course. It's just that the age and the way of their expression is different. It's more difficult to understand in neurodivergent, especially in children with autism. They also have emotional regulation problem. They go through everything. And the worst, one of the biggest difference between a neurotypical and a neurodivergent child is, a neurotypical child can get the cues of the co-regulator and imitate and learn it. These children don't get that. They're not able to convey.
They're not able to connect.
Yeah. So that is, we need to, that's why you have to work with them much more, and the parents have to be far more compassionate, far more empathetic, and as a teacher and all the therapists who are connecting with this child, they have to understand the value. And then the parents itself are, emotionally disturbed for them to accept that, they're all going through their own, emotional upheaval to accept a child like this. And Rightly so, because the best things in their life has gone wrong. So you see, it's a double whammy for them,
Yes.
So the strategies would you'll apply, but you'll have to apply it suitable to the circumstances in which we are working, like how you're working with your kimochi, your social-emotional program. Before that also, little bit about trauma. Like Dr. Karen, who's done a lot of work on these trauma-related disorders. See, one of the first, she's given 3 strategies. First is empowerment. Empowerment is everything to do with nutrition.
Yes.
Nutrition plays a big role. Lack of vitamin D, lack of food, it is, for hydration, water. In fact, she talks about how you have to give food and water to these children. Some children you see who come from adopted agents, the children eat a lot.
Yes.
Because, they, hunger is not sad. That is not resolved in them.
True.
The resolution has to occur at any stage it can occur.
Yes.
Child,
Yes, we need to be-
provided you are using a frontal, you can come with the thing has to come to your conscious mind, and then you have to resolve it.
Yes.
And empowerment, and then connection. Correction comes much later.
Yes.
That's all very different strategies altogether. But this is very, very important for us to realize. Even neurotypical.
Yes, that's true. That's true. So yes, as you were talking about the program that we are running in our center, I have seen great amount of improvement in children. More than improvement, I see them connected.
Yeah.
I see them, number one, able to understand
Yes.
others' emotions first.
Yes.
Understand their emotions next, and the connection between my emotion regulating into theirs, or their emotions helping me or not helping me. How do I give a voice to myself?
Yes.
If I'm feeling so and so, I need a language to express that. So with the social emotional programs that we are having, I think we have seen dramatic changes in each and every child, not only neurotypical but even in neurodiverse children.
Yeah, it's all about giving voice and choice to them.
Yes, it's about voice and choice and helping them understand their own zones of regulation.
Yeah.
The moment the child is able to understand what zone they are in,
Absolutely.
especially this happens with children with autism, because they are so systematic in their approach, and
Yeah.
when they're like, yes, what zone are you in? I'm in red. So what do? Okay, children say the strategies
Yeah,
themselves.
they breathe, they'll sit there, they want to play, they can go, they ask for time out,
Yes.
help, all those things which we do is really very...
Beautifully, children get themselves bettered with respect to emotionally regulating themselves. And I think with parents being involved in each and every of these development, we see a drastic change or the development in children.
Yeah, we have to involve families.
Yes.
Because the child learns, as I keep telling everybody, experience, practice, and affirmation. And the parents also need to regulate their emotions.
Yeah.
So when they learn that's I can bring distress to my child, and if I have to resolve these conflicts before I resolve somebody else's, it makes a difference. And the parents in our, of course, center have learned all the calming techniques, whether it is movement, whether it is music, whether it is taking a physical exercise. The 3-4 things which every parent should do for every child is good nutrition, sleep. We did a podcast on sleep because sleep deprivation is one of the greatest emotional dysregulators.
Yes.
All these things can be worked out. Gut biome.
Yes.
Third, gut biome is what kind of food. Sugary, processed food do not help to emotionally regulate, because lots of research has shown one of the the hormones required for calming, a lot of it comes from the gut. That's why gut regulation is so important. So when a child is, you're giving a holistic program, as you're talking about all this, and the parents are also regulating themselves. I see them, participating in dance or enjoying some laughter, how they took part in your, you just did for yesterday in your sports day. Now, it's those are the children who have done well with you, if you would have noticed.
Very true. Yes, doctor. The settled parents, emotionally very well regulated parents who have been able to resolve their issues, we see a lot of change
Yeah.
in not only in them, but we see a direct impact of that in their children
Child
too.
also. Yeah.
Uh, One last question, doctor. Uh, yes, there are many parents who are seeking for help. Can you help us understand what may be the biggest barriers a parents may face when they are trying to understand their own children?
The biggest barriers is, I think, lack of awareness and knowledge, in my opinion.
Okay.
If you're aware and your knowledge is built, I think why we started this, and from few weeks from now, we also have put out this course on emotion regulation from infancy to teens, aiming at the pediatricians, the therapists, the teachers, and everyone who's dealing with them. I think that we lack the awareness and the knowledge, and this has to percolate beyond the whole community has to be involved, because it involves everyone. And I think awareness, knowledge building, understanding, and willing to help. And the parents don't know it.
True.
But if you, like how when you've taught them, they have accepted. Maybe it takes a little time. The second thing we have to understand is it's a process. It's not going to happen overnight. If you have to be a little persistent and consistent and consistently doing things for that to be accepted. For them. The third, of course, I feel is our school system has to move away from cognitive thinking all the time to incorporate emotional thinking right from a young age. And my grouses always, when I go, they call me, I always say that we give best sportsman, best, everything.
Yeah.
Do we ever say the most compassionate child? And last I feel is the concept of self-compassion.
Yes.
That I need to be happy before I bring happiness into anybody else's life. Or I need to be, understand myself and regulate myself. What are the things which is causing me, and how am I going to seek help? We don't seek help. We call, in our country, it becomes a taboo
To ask
to
for help.
talk about your emotion, to ask for help on these issues.
Yes.
They think something is wrong, with this. But you see this younger generation, if every news you see in the work, they talk about work-life balance, but they themselves are, not able to manage their finances. They're going to depression because they've spent all their time on buying things beyond in the credit card. And, there are a lot of things you see. And let's forget about us. I'm talking about the young generation, who are young parents who are in their 30s and 35s and their late 20s, where they're having the children. And they belong to this generation of mobile and this thing.
Yes.
Addiction to mobile.
Is
Yeah, all the time you have to get over that hyper-vigilant mode.
true.
And surprisingly, we learn a lot from the West. But the West is banning it in school children, banning it. And, I had one of my very dear friends who was married a lot of people in Germany, and she was spending this holiday. And she says they were teenagers, they were their parents and the grandparents. They spent a sort of 3-4 hours over dinner. Not a single person took out their mobile
Wow.
to check what we don't even do. Either we are front of the TV or in the mobile. What will we regulate our children? The parents have to get aware that time, quality time is very important. For that to give, you have to get over your craving first.
First.
Go for a walk. There are many strategies. Do what you like. The best thing is each one has their own strategy you may like music and I may like dance, or somebody likes physical exercise is a must, which we are not doing, which you can and also understand that children imitate and learn from their own adults, from their own environment. So we need to improve that, I feel is one of the most important thing, which is the urgent need of the hour for our country now.
Thank you, Doctor, for an exciting podcast again. I think we have learned a lot about why is emotional regulation important, how do we help a child develop the same, how do we help them resolve their own issues. And I think we need to learn more, and I'm sure you're having a wonderful workshop for that, and I'm sure many parents would like to join for that. We will surely drop in the information for all our viewers, so that interested people can join in, interested parents can join in, and get most of the benefit out of it. not I would want to take a few seconds more over here to thank doctor for enlightening us so much about the emotional regulation topic itself, because as we all know, I can be a successful person, but if I'm not emotionally well regulated, I may not be able to handle myself when I'm not so successful. So, thank you so much for helping us understand the same, doctor. We would love to hear you more, and we'll be waiting for your next talk. Thank you, doctor.
Thank you very much for having me. I hope I did some justice to you calling me for this.
Sure, doctor. Thank you.